The mahogany-paneled law office felt suffocating as I sat among my relatives. All of us gathered for the reading of my grandmother's will. I'm Dr. Emily Chen, though most of my family still sees me as little Emmy, the quiet granddaughter who chose environmental engineering over the family's real estate business. Grandmother Eleanor was different though. She understood me in ways the rest of the family never bothered to try. And to my granddaughter Emily, Mr. Patterson, the family lawyer, continued reading from the will, his voice steady and professional. I leave my farmland property in Greene County, all 200 acres of it. The snickers started immediately. Aunt Margaret, always the first to judge, didn't even try to hide her amusement. "Oh, how perfect," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "The researcher gets the worthless dirt." I kept my face carefully neutral, though my heart was racing. Could it be? Had grandmother known? Her last conversation with me 3 months ago suddenly took on new meaning. "Emmy dear," she had said, her eyes twinkling despite her illness, "sometimes the greatest treasures aren't the ones that shine the brightest at first glance. Your education, your passion for the environment, they're worth more than all the real estate portfolios in the world." My cousin Bradley, who'd been expecting to get the farm himself, couldn't contain his relief. "Well, that's a bullet dodged," he laughed, elbowing his brother Marcus. "Nothing but dried up soil and dead crops out there. Hasn't produced anything worthwhile in decades. If only they knew what my research team had discovered about that region just last month." The rest of the will reading passed in a blur of property distributions. The valuable assets, the downtown buildings, the summer homes, the investment portfolios were divided among my aunts, uncles, and cousins. Each bequest was met with satisfied nods and smug smiles. They were all real estate developers and business executives, people who saw value only in concrete and steel. "I still can't believe Mom left that wasteland to Emmy," Aunt Margaret said loudly as we gathered our things afterward. "Though I suppose it's fitting. The disappointment gets the disappointing inheritance." My Uncle James, always trying to appear generous, placed a heavy hand on my shoulder. "Look, Emily, if you want to sell the land, I'm willing to take it off your hands. Say, $50,000? That's more than fair for unused farmland." I smiled politely, shouldering my bag. "Thank you, Uncle James, but I think I'll hold on to it. Grandmother always said it had potential." "Potential?" He scoffed. "The soil tests from 5 years ago showed it was barely suitable for growing weeds. What are you going to do, study dirt samples for your research?" "Something like that," I replied vaguely, making my way to the door. Behind me, I could hear them continuing to joke about poor Emmy and her worthless inheritance. But as I drove out to the property that afternoon, my mind was racing with possibilities. My research team's recent geological survey of Greene County had revealed something extraordinary, something that would have shown up on no conventional soil test, something that could only be detected with the cutting-edge environmental analysis methods we developed. The farm looked abandoned at first glance, its fields overgrown, the old barn leaning slightly to one side. But I saw it with different eyes. Beneath this unremarkable surface lay deposits of rare earth elements, crucial components for green technology and renewable energy systems. My grandmother's worthless farm sat on what could potentially be one of the largest domestic reserves of these critical materials. I walked the property slowly, my boots crunching on dry grass. My phone buzzed. Another message from Uncle James. "Emmy, seriously, think about my offer. What can you possibly do with that land?" I took a deep breath of country air and smiled. Let them think I was naive. Let them believe I was the family disappointment who got stuck with worthless dirt. In 6 months, when our environmental impact studies were complete and the mining rights were secured, they'd understand exactly what grandmother had given me. "Thanks, grandmother," I whispered to the wind. "I won't waste this opportunity." That evening, I made 2 calls. The first was to Dr. Sarah Martinez, my research partner and a leading expert in sustainable rare earth element extraction. The second was to Mr. Patterson, the family lawyer. "Mr. Patterson, this is Emily Chen. I need you to prepare some paperwork. And I'd appreciate if you could keep this confidential for now." "Of course, Dr. Chen," he replied, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "Your grandmother mentioned you might be calling. She left a letter for you as well. Should I send it over?" My heart skipped a beat. Yes, please. An hour later, I sat in my home office, holding grandmother's letter with trembling hands. As I read her familiar handwriting, tears filled my eyes. My dearest Emmy, if you're reading this, then you've inherited the farm, and knowing you, you've already figured out why. I may not understand all your scientific papers, but I've always understood your heart. When you showed me those satellite surveys last Christmas, so excited about the unique mineral compositions you discovered in Greene County, I knew exactly what my final gift to you should be. Your cousins see only the surface, the abandoned fields, the old barn, the apparent worthlessness. But you, my brilliant girl, you see beneath the surface. You see potential where others see problems. You see opportunity where others see waste. I'm leaving you the farm because you're the only one who knows its true value, not just its mineral wealth, but its potential to help create a better, more sustainable future. The kind of future you've always dreamed of building. Use it wisely, my dear. Show them all what the family disappointment can do. All my love, grandmother. I carefully folded the letter and placed it in my desk. Tomorrow, I would begin the real work: environmental surveys, permit applications, sustainable mining plans. But tonight, I allowed myself a moment to appreciate my grandmother's final perfect gift. Not just valuable land, but the chance to prove myself on my own terms. Let them laugh. Let them joke. In time, they would learn what grandmother had known all along: that true value isn't always visible to those who refuse to look deeper. 6 months passed in a whirlwind of activity. While my family assumed I was simply playing farmer with my worthless inheritance, Dr. Martinez and I worked tirelessly with our research team. Environmental impact studies, geological surveys, sustainability assessments. Each step confirmed what we'd initially suspected. The rare earth deposits beneath my grandmother's farm weren't just valuable, they were exceptional. These concentrations are remarkable, Sarah said one evening, reviewing our latest core samples. And the best part? The geological formation means we can extract them with minimal environmental impact. I nodded, thinking of the innovative extraction method we developed in our lab. Green technology built on green mining. Grandmother would have loved the irony. The calls from my family hadn't stopped. Each week brought new, concerned messages. Emmy dear, Aunt Margaret's voicemail dripped with false sympathy. I heard you've been spending money on geological surveys. Don't waste your savings on that wasteland. Just sell it to James and be done with it. Uncle James had increased his offer to $100,000. Then $150,000. Each time, his tone grew more condescending. You clearly don't understand real estate, Emily. This is more than generous for unproductive farmland. I saved every message. They would make interesting listening later. By month 4, we'd secured preliminary mining rights and filed our patents for the environmentally friendly extraction process. That's when the first industry whispers began. Word spread quickly in environmental engineering circles about a revolutionary new source of rare earth elements, one that could reduce dependency on foreign imports while maintaining strict environmental standards. My cousin Bradley was the first to catch wind of it. He worked for a commercial real estate firm that dealt with industrial properties. Emily, he called one morning, his voice unusually friendly. I heard some interesting rumors about development in Greene County. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? I might, I replied calmly. Why do you ask? Well, if you're thinking of selling, I have some clients who might be interested. Better offers than James could make. I smiled. Thanks, Bradley, but I've got it handled. Month 5 brought the first official offers from technology companies. Our sustainable extraction method had caught their attention. Major manufacturers desperate to secure a reliable, environmentally friendly source of rare earth elements for their green technology initiatives. I scheduled our big announcement for exactly 6 months after the will reading. The timing wasn't just strategic, it was personal. It would coincide with the annual family business dinner, where everyone gathered to discuss their various real estate triumphs. The evening of the dinner, I arrived at the upscale restaurant precisely on time. Everyone was already there, ready to share their latest acquisitions and developments. Emmy, Aunt Margaret called out with exaggerated enthusiasm. We didn't expect you to come, figured you'd be busy with your farm work. I took my seat, accepting a glass of wine. Oh, I wouldn't miss it. Actually, I have some business news to share. Uncle James was halfway through bragging about his latest downtown development when my phone buzzed. Right on schedule. I'm sorry to interrupt, I said, standing up. But you might want to see this. I nodded to the restaurant's manager, who turned on the large TV in the private dining room. The business news was just beginning its evening broadcast. Breaking news in the green technology sector, the anchor announced. A revolutionary discovery in Greene County has just been announced. Dr. Emily Chen, leading environmental engineer, has confirmed the discovery of one of the largest domestic rare earth element deposits along with a patented sustainable extraction method. Early estimates value the discovery at over $500 million, with major technology companies already competing for exclusive contracts. The silence at our table was deafening. "That farmland you called worthless?" I said quietly, meeting each of their shocked stares. "It's going to help transform green technology manufacturing in this country." Grandmother knew exactly what she was doing. But the soil tests," Uncle James stammered. "They showed nothing. Conventional tests wouldn't," I explained, allowing myself a small smile. "It took specialized environmental analysis to detect the deposits. The kind of analysis my research team has pioneered." "You knew," Aunt Margaret whispered. "All this time, you knew what was there." "No," I corrected her. "Grandmother knew. She knew I had the knowledge and skills to find it. That's why she left it to me." My phone was already flooding with messages, reporters, investors, industry contacts. But I stayed seated, taking a slow sip of wine. "I'm establishing a foundation," I continued calmly. "Part of the proceeds will fund environmental engineering scholarships. The rest will support sustainable mining research. Oh, and we're preserving half the property as a natural habitat." Grandmother would have wanted that. Bradley, who had called me a fool just months ago, now leaned forward eagerly. "Emily, perhaps we could discuss a partnership. My firm has experience with industrial properties." "Thank you, but no," I cut him off politely. "I've already partnered with leaders in sustainable technology. We're keeping this project focused on environmental responsibility, not just profit." As my family sat in stunned silence, I pulled out an envelope. "By the way, Grandmother left me another letter, to be opened today. Would you like to hear it?" Without waiting for their response, I began reading. "My dear family, by now, Emily has likely shown you the true value of what you dismissed as worthless. Let this be a lesson, one I hope you'll finally learn. True worth isn't always visible to those who only see the surface." Emily understood this. She saw value not in quick profits, but in sustainable futures, in solutions that benefit not just our family, but our world. I leave you with this thought. The real estate business I built taught you to see value in buildings and developments. But Emily's inheritance will help build something far more valuable, a better future for generations to come. Perhaps now you'll understand why I'm so proud of my disappointing granddaughter. With love and hope for your enlightenment, Eleanor. The next few weeks were a blur of contracts, press conferences, and planning meetings. Our sustainable mining operation would set new industry standards, combining profitable resource extraction with environmental responsibility. One morning, as I stood on the property watching the sunrise, Sarah joined me. "You could have sold it, you know," she said. "Made a quick fortune and proved them all wrong." I shook my head, thinking of Grandmother. That's not what this land was meant for. She gave me this opportunity not just to prove myself, but to make a difference. "She'd be proud," Sarah said softly. Looking out over the property, half preserved as natural habitat, half carefully prepared for sustainable mining, I smiled. The land that my family had dismissed as worthless would help create cleaner technology, fund environmental research, and preserve nature. In the end, I had inherited far more than just acres of dirt. I'd inherited my grandmother's vision, the ability to see value where others saw nothing, and the courage to turn that vision into reality. My phone buzzed. Another message from Uncle James. "Emmy, I was wrong. Would you consider having lunch? I'd like to understand more about what you're doing." I thought about it for a moment, then typed back, "Come by the farm tomorrow. I'll show you what Grandmother saw all along." Sometimes the best revenge isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right, and then using that success to create something bigger than yourself, just as Grandmother had taught me.